I would call to order the Village of Westmont Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for January 8th, 2014. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Van Buren is here. Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Phil?
Here.
Commissioner Fidesco? Commissioner Anton?
Here.
Commissioner Fleet?
Here.
And Chairman Richards?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, if you would please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. While I have you all standing, please, anybody who's going to give any testimony tonight, either for or against any item on the agenda, you got to be sworn in. So if you please raise your hand. I swear that any testimony I give this evening shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I would ask, please, that you silence any and all electronic devices. First item on the agenda, approval of our minutes of our December 11, 2013 meeting.
I'll move that the minutes be printed as, accepted as printed.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Van Buren, seconded by Commissioner Hill. May we have any question on the motion? No? May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, and Chairman Richards.
Yes. Okay, next item on our agenda under new business, planning and zoning item 13037. Musa Tadras of Crown Commercial Real Estate and Development regarding the property located at 19 West Ogden for the following. A special use permit request to operate a restaurant and an associated drive-in in the B2 General Business District. Item B, zoning code variance request to reduce the number of required off-street parking stalls for the purpose of operating a multi-tenant building with restaurants in the B2 General Business District. Item C, zoning code variance request to reduce the required front yard setback for the purpose of constructing a new multi-tenant building in the B2 General Business District. Item D, site and landscaping plan approval for the purpose of constructing a new multi-tenant building in the B2 General Business District. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Peter Mataminos, the architect for the project. As explained earlier, the project will entail a commercial building, one-story commercial retail building, multi-tenant. There is an existing building on the site. The site is on Ogden Avenue and Grant Street. Currently, it's the Connie's Pizza. You may be familiar with it. That building will be planned on being demolished, and in its place would be a multi-tenant building which would front along Ogden Avenue and the parking along and access through Grant Street.
If I may, sir?
Sure.
If you want to display any drawings, you could just put them on the slide so the people at home can also see them. Thank you.
Let me back up a bit. Here's the survey as it stands today, with the existing building on it. The proposed building, as you can see, which leads me to the first variance, the front yard setback, to get our code-required parking in the correct code-required dimensions, starting from the back property line, working our way forward, that's what the first request is for a 5 or 5.3 foot setback variance along Ogden Avenue, basically pushing the building a little closer to the street. And because we're planning on having 2 restaurant uses, our goal is to use that front setback with some outdoor seating as well. And they would be fenced in, and they'd be accessed through the interior of the restaurants. The other item which we're requesting variance and approval on is the drive-through. The drive-through would be on the east portion of the building, and it will be a single drive-through. There is a pass-through lane if we had a lot of backup. But you may have a preliminary site plan earlier which showed stacking. And we increased the length of the island there, if you can notice, right along here. We increased the length of this island, get more cars to stack up. The potential tenant there asked for 6 cars of stacking. We can get 7 cars there with the menu sign and the stacking and the drive-through lane.
I passed out revised drawings to the commission, the 11 by 17s, and those show the revised drive-through lane.
Very nice, thank you.
As far as the third item would be the variance on the parking numbers. The code does read that with a drive-through, there's a higher demand for parking if it was as opposed to a sit-down restaurant. It sounds a little odd, and we thought it was a little odd, but it is the code, so that's another requirement that we're asking, another variance we're asking for today would be the number of parking spaces.
Referring to the requirement of a specific hardship whenever you're requiring or asking for a variance, a hardship for the parking spaces, if you were forced to meet that, the total number of parking spaces that what code says, would you severely have to diminish the size of your building?
Exactly. The building would be
making it uneconomical?
Exactly. The size of that building would reduce down to almost 40 feet. It'd be very shallow, very hard to lease. It'd be almost impossible to get someone to rent spaces of that size. And the users that are coming in here demand that 60-foot depth, which is standard retail depth, as they have, the national accounts, and people need to have the depth to make their operations work.
Okay, when we hear a request for a variance, we need to hear the specific hardship that is incurred upon you. So if, and did you also allude to the, that was for the front yard setback and for the, so that would, the hardship would pretty much be the same if you had to meet the full number of parking spaces and for the front setback?
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
thank you
correct.
very much,
That's
sir.
correct.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, quite. And feel free to jump in. If I'm in an area that you want to ask about, feel free to interrupt. The signage is also in the package. The signage consultant did calculate through your ordinance, and it works off of the dimension of the property per square footage of signs, and we are within we're not asking for a variance for signage tonight. The signage is within code, but that is another item in your package. The building itself is a single story, as mentioned before. It is iron spot brick, all 4 sides. It's a more modern building. It does have aluminum panels on all 4 sides. The facade does have the panels above it that will rise above the roof line and will continue across the roof, basically creating the roof screen for the rooftop units. So we won't have additional screening beyond that. They won't be necessary. The only other thing that I foresaw that came up recently was this elevation here. This is the drive-through elevation. And what you see is a window and a drive-through window. In speaking with the tenant, that drive-through window may increase to maybe 10 feet long. And where we're proposing a window, that's where they want to back up their kitchen to. So I just wanted to alert that to you, make it part of the minutes, because when we do go apply for a permit, it may be different. And I want to make sure that we have that leeway, and we can talk about that. If there's some way we can make sure that we have that covered, because that's still, their drive-through is still that design is still in flux. We also have provided preliminary civil engineering. And the engineering itself, we're working with Intech Consultants, which know your village very well, and the engineering itself is, currently there is no stormwater being retained on the site, and we're proposing here is an underground detention area. It'd be subsurface to the parking lot, which would then drain out to, I believe, currently it's draining out to a Grant Street. And because it's a very shallow sewer there, the area has increased in the size of the retention, but it will all be within code, within the county ordinances for storm retention. We did receive a report, preliminary report from the engineering department, and they didn't foresee any unusual circumstances on this site, nothing that we cannot work out during the permit process.
Okay. Is there any, yes, sir, please. If you would come up and sign in and announce your name, please.
I'm actually Musa Tadros, the developer. I just wanted to elaborate on the point you asked on the hardship. Currently, the prints that we have now are smaller than the building than it currently exists, and the parking is less than what currently exists. Right now, our rents are based, because we had a drive-through, our building's actually 20% smaller than we needed. So we have to charge higher rents, and if we make it much smaller, it wouldn't work for us. Plus, we have to spend a lot of money for underground detention and the landscaping. It'll look a lot better than it looks right now. But if I charge higher rents and make the building smaller, they couldn't pay it. So I would lose the 2 tenants that I have in place. Is there anything I can answer for you guys?
Well, I'm sure the commissioners will have questions that you can answer.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the public who will speak on this issue? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public comment. Staff?
I was going to ask if we could go over the drive-through queuing and how that's changed since the commissioners originally saw the plans. Just discuss the number of spaces that will be provided, how it will be accessed, and then also the one-way exit onto Ogden Avenue, because the site plan is substantially changing in terms of access onto Ogden as well as Grant Street.
Sure. Currently, there's a two-way exit onto Ogden Avenue. It's a full driveway, and there are 2 entrances off of Grant serving the existing parking lot. The proposed layout has a one-way out exit onto Ogden, and similarly 2 driveways off of Grant Street. The idea on Ogden, because it's so close to the corner, most likely we're going to have to go through IDOT. It's an IDOT-controlled road. Most likely it'll be right out only, we're going to guess, but I'm sure that'll come up as it comes up. So that will lessen the amount of traffic going left, severely, completely getting rid of the traffic going left, and pushing more of the parking exiting off of onto Grant Street. This was the original layout, by the way. As you can see, it had the drive aisles that you could circle around and go through this way. And it left us with 4 cars stacking along the side drive-through aisle. The new plan extended this island further back towards the second parking tree. And what that did is still allows us to circulate around, but it allows for more stacking, and it keeps all the drive-through people back on the back side of the site, where they're not, here there's plenty of stacking, it's more than what they required, and there's a way to get out, but it does keep a lot of that backup traffic up along the back side of the side of the site. And of course, the landscaping went along with it, where we've landscaped heavily the island with the menu sign on it. What was your second item?
The one-way onto Ogden.
The one-way onto Ogden. We're anticipating IDOT will make us do that one way out. So it'll really clean up a lot of the congestion right around that corner.
One of the things I'd also like to note is that the smaller restaurant with the drive-through actually has less seats than the larger restaurant, and it's also smaller, but it has a higher parking requirement. which is one of the reasons why the applicant is requesting a variance. And we don't have a requirement for the number of stacking spaces for restaurants with a drive-through, but the restaurant is meeting the required number of spaces that banks are required to provide, which is 7. So this is very similar to the Chase that we saw earlier in 2013 that had a drive-through lane with 7 stacking spaces.
Was it true that we have a higher requirement for drive-through operations on the parking?
We do. It's 1.5.
Is there a rationale for that?
I'm not sure what it is, especially because this has less seats. The requirement is 1.5 spaces per 100 square feet versus 1 per 100 square feet for sit-down restaurants. I don't know if it's because there's a lot of in-and-out traffic, but hopefully they would be using the drive-in window.
Okay, let's start with Commissioner Thomas, if you would, please.
How many parking spaces will you have here?
The total parking spaces are
45.
45, thank you.
And do you know what kind of water retention is present now, if any?
I don't believe there's any.
So this is an upgrade from, as
Definitely,
far as neighbors' concerns?
for sure,
Maybe.
absolutely.
There's no landscaping either or anything.
Right. What are the 2 residents that you do know? The 2 restaurants? Who's going to be in there?
One of them with the drive-through is Pop.
Sir, if you could, the audience at home cannot hear you unless you
Oh,
speak
I'm
at
sorry, I
that.
didn't think I'm being televised.
Oh, you're on
Sorry.
television.
The one with the drive-through is Potbelly, and the other one on the west side is going to be a Connie's Pizza, 3,500 square feet. They'd like to stay and open up back in that location. The other one was old and didn't meet all their requirements, so they would like to stay in Westmont. We're also proposing not to put a 3rd restaurant in there, because that would make the parking probably worse. So we're looking for either an office or some other use, telephone or something.
2?
Just 2 restaurants, yeah. And then most of those restaurants, they actually are getting higher deliveries and higher drive-throughs than even Connie's. If I could give them another drive-through, they would take it, because a lot of people are picking up at the window.
Do you know where, do you foresee any problems about, since we're in winter time here and with the temperature and the weather and that, about snow removal, and you know where you're going to put it? You're going to have it removed, or you're going to stack it?
You talking about the current snow right now?
No. Next, once you're done,
Yes.
but once you have everything built,
Yes.
are you going to remove it from the property and take it elsewhere? You're going to stack it?
I think most of the snow gets stacked within the premises. I don't think you can take it, put it in the street or anything like that. You know, they normally put it against the bank, the landscaping, some other areas until it melts. I don't think anyone I know takes it off premises.
Okay.
That's not my plan anyway, but.
Right, understood. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Gill?
I was curious about the tenants, so you've got the 2 restaurants, and then the middle part, I suppose, could be 1 or 2 units,
That is correct, and we put it that way because depending on what the tenants are requiring.
depending who's looking for it.
Correct. I mean, I got a call actually on my way here from another tenant, but I don't think I can accommodate them because they want to drive up also.
Oh. Maybe a conveyor belt going over the top.
Get it underground.
In looking at the revised drawings, and I guess it was on the original ones, I noticed the grease trap is out on Ogden Avenue. Now, is that something that needs to get serviced from time to time? And if so, how does it get serviced? Do they bring the trucks then and stop on Ogden Avenue, since that's out in the front?
Is that what the grease strip is?
Well, that's a good question, that he did put it into the line of path of travel to the sanitary, and we can, through final engineering, put that in the parking lot, it's just running more line, basically. But if that's the optimal spot for it, and if there is the case where they need to do this, they'll have to do it off hours, when it's the middle of the night or early morning, just so there's less traffic and less disruption.
Okay. I notice you've chosen to go with a wooden fence in the back between the residential areas. I'm curious, today it seems that most people who are presenting to us are going to the synthetic type of fences so that there's little maintenance, no painting. They seem to be more durable. And they look better long-term. Wood fences look nice for the first couple of years, and then there's deterioration sets in pretty quick, particularly with Chicago weather. Any thoughts as to why you've chosen wood? Is it purely a budget item, or is it something that you might be open to consideration?
No, we're open. I don't think it's a budget item. I don't think the price is a big difference between wood. Sometimes.
They've really come down.
Residents, sometimes the residents prefer wood, because then they don't want to see through you or the traffic or anything else.
But they have the same options. They have the same options with the synthetics.
No, if you guys insist one way or the other, I really don't have a big preference.
So I just wonder if they can.
Either way, and we don't have a code that requires one over the other.
Right.
It just is a maintenance issue. And
Right.
we do require that once a fence is installed, as shown on a site plan, it's continuously maintained. If it falls down, you got to put it back up.
First, for your comfort, I'm a developer who develops the property, keeps them, maintains them, and manages them. I don't just flip them. I built the suit, and we'll be operating it and managing it. So if it needs any maintenance, we'll be maintaining it as well. We're not a flipper of sorts.
What are the plans for lighting on this parking lot as well as the buildings?
Well, there will be parking lot lighting as we move forward, when we apply for permit. The parking lot will be well lit. The building itself,
Is the parking lot lights, are they shielded?
they will be. They will be per code. I believe you have 0% over property line, and they'll be shielded to make sure. We'll supply photometrics to make sure that that happens. And the building itself, at the sign band, there will be some indirect lighting underneath it shining down. So you will get, even in the evening, we'll be able to get light of the building up.
And that's facing the street.
It's actually on all four, well, three sides, except for the drive-through side, there'll be pack light.
And obviously, with the Connie's, now it's closed up, but between your potential 3 or 4 tenants, do you anticipate anybody operating later than the current Connie's was operating?
I don't think so, but I can't tell you who may come to rent. Obviously, we want it to work well with our tenants and, of course, the uses that we have under zoning. I don't know who they are, if they're going to have later hours. I don't think so. I think Connie's is going to open later. I think they're probably going to open maybe at 11, and maybe Potbelly opens 11, but I don't know what their hours are.
Yeah, it's later at night that I was concerned when, because it is a residential neighborhood then
Right.
proceeding to the south from there. All right, and then one final question. I'd like to just go back to that snow removal. As a business owner in the local area also, all of us right now are having our snow hauled out. We can't handle it and have parking for our customers right now, so we're all paying through the nose for that. You are really tight here. You're using every inch.
Yeah.
I don't see, the couple-inch snowfalls are fine, but these back-to-back one-footers, I would think that you have no space to put anything. What are you going to do if we get a winter, if we get 2 weeks like we've just had? What do you do now? Do you have properties that are tight like this?
Tight like this, no. This is probably one of the smallest
One of the
projects
smaller.
that we're working on, yes.
Because you're right, you can't take it out into the street, you
Right.
can't push it in the building. Your parking goes all the way to the fence, you can't block the drive-through.
The only place left is a loading area along the back property line, and then that would have to be, and again, depending on the snowfall, it's going to have to be temporary till you can haul it off, or you can.
And we
or melt.
we can't make every contingency for every predicament that we may find, obviously.
The only reason I bring it up, I don't see you having a problem with the property lines, but I know that that's become a source of irritation between neighbors, and we look to prevent those things from happening down the road. when one guy's putting his snow on the other guy's property and stuff like that. So I do see a very tight footprint here, and the potential for any more than average winter snows, especially if it comes fast like we just had, and cold weather where it doesn't melt, I could see a problem there. Something you might want to just think about a little bit too as you plan.
I will, thank you.
I basically like the setup, so
Thank you. Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck. I have no further questions, sir.
Commissioner Anton?
I don't think we would care too much about the snow removal, but you're asking for a variance to reduce the number of parking. So that therefore, we are concerned now, because to say you can't consider everything, you have to consider everything, because you are asking for the variance. So it has to be hauled out, or something's gonna be done with it, otherwise there'll be problems with it. Okay, for me, I'm asking, I had a couple questions here. Truck deliveries, is that notched out spot on Grant Street there going towards Ogden, is that a delivery spot?
No, the
Deliveries?
loading area is here
The
near the
loading area
trash.
back there, we'll get to
trash
that. Do you have any other spot you're gonna load trucks out for your, I mean, it's a restaurant, they're gonna be deliveries every day, every other day? I mean, I see downtown Downers Grove, I see them come in for Salerno's and everybody else, and there's trucks all over the place. And it's a problem, we're trying to sort through your possible problems.
Sure.
Because I see this little spot back here, 10 by 35, and that's not bad, but you're going to have two restaurants going. I was just wondering if that notch on that street there, which is a good idea, if that's what that's for, or is that more parking? Because you've got that recessed curb coming in, that looks like a great spot for a delivery truck to pull in.
That's right here. That's public parking right now.
Oh, well, then that might work, because I know the body shop across the street uses it to park cars. I have a house right down there, so I'm always in the area. I think the truck delivery thing is going to be, I mean, running, if you have a delivery truck right there in that area you've got denoted, I would move that down to the corner, because you've got cars coming in on the drive-through. That's kind of a, it's going to be a hectic area.
Flip these, you mean?
Yeah, so you see, so
Back
you
on
got
this
the
side.
delivery area right there to the south of the drive-through,
Right, put that here.
and the truck's got to get out of there. I mean, I suppose you can go down the way.
They lose parking that way, though. See, they put it in an area where they don't have parking.
Yeah, I see.
Plus, most of these deliveries are gonna be really done AM,
Yeah, that's
Nobody's
true.
there.
Especially restaurants.
True.
The restaurants, they come in at 6 or 7 in the morning, and no one's coming to Potbelly at 6 or 7 or Old County.
Okay, that's good. If you can get it delivered early, that's great. How about the garbage location? Again, it's two restaurants again, and I see a lot of this. You've got a trash enclosure, it looks like it's about one stall wide and not very deep. Maybe you can make that a little deeper or something, because you're gonna have, what, oil, grease trap, regular garbage, any of that stuff?
A lot of the oil, actually, a lot of them, they can do it inside now. They have tanks that suck it out, so you don't
Yeah,
have.
but
to
you're gonna have tanks
haul
on
it.
the back of this building?
I've seen them, and all new tenants, I've seen them actually inside the space. And I just know that I can't give up any more parking, because.
No, I don't want you to. No, I agree, I don't want you to. I just want you to, I don't wanna see dumpsters laying around outside the
And
enclosure.
the dumpsters, what we get around that on smaller spots is we just get more deliveries. A lot of times you get 2 or 3 times a week. And some of the areas that we're busy, we actually get 6 pickups a week.
Oh, there you go, smaller
So
dumpsters.
That
Yeah.
gets rid of the problem, and I'd rather have the extra parking space, and the fees aren't really that much more.
For sure, good. And then the other thing I have is the underground detention. I know a little bit about this, and I see how Connie's is now, it kind of runs out to the north towards Ogden Avenue. And you're going to redo this, obviously you're going to put buildings in the way of your natural grade, and you're going to put this detention in here. I see it's drawn going to the north for the exit. Is that in fact true? Will it be going to the north?
Yes, this ties into the sewer it runs along parallel to the west wall, and then it ties in right at that corner.
All right, because it's not going to go to the south, I hope, because to the south it floods.
No, it'll go, yeah, it'll go, the natural flow there of the sewer goes to the north and then runs to the west.
Okay. That's all I got. I think it looks good. Nice building. Glad Connie's is staying. It's good to see another restaurant get in. Like the landscape drawing's pretty good. Thought that was decent. Nice trees. And again, I like the idea of not having a wood fence. That'll make us happy. They're not that expensive for a plastic fence.
No problem.
That's not a problem.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Commissioner Van Buren?
Is there a possibility that you will be getting the third and fourth tenant might also be retail? Or are you strictly appealing to office type?
If it is retail, it could be retail, but it won't be one that requires a lot of parking. I mean, if there's a store that you only have 1 or 2 customers at a time, they don't really care about that. And the requirement isn't me, really, the restaurants don't want another restaurant
Right,
because
right.
of the parking. But depends on what you're selling. I mean,
Yeah. Well, we'd like the sales tax revenue from retail,
I'm
but
with you, you know, I'd
same
like to
time-
build a bigger building and, you know, do more and give you more revenue.
but it's, yeah, that could be. And then the question I had, I've never seen such a big drive-up window. What, is it Connie's or Potbelly that needs a big window?
Well, I think it's Potbelly,
Potbelly.
instead of just a regular window, they just really, from my understanding, they just want to move that glass to the front and then have less in the back, because that's your kitchen, right?
Correct.
So they're
Correct.
only, if you can put it back up here again, maybe,
This elevation?
yeah, this one right here, so.
The side one there?
Yeah, they're just probably going to switch this to kind of be here and have maybe less window here, that's what I understood. Because they don't want anyone to see through their kitchen, I think their kitchen be in the reverse.
That's what I was gonna say, you're gonna be watching the preparation while you're,
No, I don't think they
No, not at all.
want that, and that takes actually a little more space.
okay.
So they just want a bigger window here. They don't want you to say it looks like a 2x2 and you're putting a 10x10. That's the caveat.
Okay. Well, I like the idea, I like the concept, and good luck to you.
Thank you, sir, I appreciate it.
Commissioner Fleet?
So your business flow, people are gonna park in the parking lot that's on the south side of the building, get out of their cars, walk north into the entrance of the building. So the entrance to all 4 properties will be facing the parking lot. So what we're looking at when we see the seasonal outdoor seating, that's actually at the back of the restaurant.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. And, okay. Talk about the sign a little bit, and where it's going to be, how big it's going to be. And I'm assuming that since we didn't get any comments on that, that we're within our prescriptions on,
When the exact dimensions of the signs are available, we'll review it to make sure it meets code. I would guess that it probably will need a variance just because of the number of signs, but again, you know, depending on the tenants, not all of the tenants might need signs on both sides, so.
and on the electronic portion of the sign, will that be going 24 hours a day? And what sort of information might be put on there? Like weather and temperature and additional announcements, or?
Yeah, that was an option which was added by the consultant because it's available, because it can be done, and we can leave it up to the,
It may or may not be done.
And again-
The electronic portion, part of the sign does meet code. It's within, it has to be subsidiary to the main portion of the sign, no more than 40%, and it can only have one static message at a time.
Which has to stay displayed for a certain time period before
Right.
it rotates or moves to the next message.
Right, it can't be flashing or moving, no graphics.
I can't tell you, you know, being a businessman myself, it's not always going to contain the weather at a time. I'm sure they may have some specials, or they want to give you some alerts. Otherwise, no business is going to pay for that digital sign. That's my experience.
Going back to the grease traps within the restaurants, what is shown here on the drawings on the north side of the buildings then, let's see, so it's on the Ogden Avenue side of the buildings. Does that have to be serviced regularly, or is that just a precautionary thing for just all the drains in the building that have already gone through location grease traps?
Yeah, our engineer included this because he anticipated having the restaurant use, you may need it. But as Musa explains, he has other tenants which contain their grease in their own space, and they have it disposed of from the interior of their space. So we'll work with both the engineering department and with the engineer to make sure that we are within code, and with the tenants, because they may have a system which would make this obsolete. So we'd like to work with them to make it as easy for everyone.
Yeah, because I was also wondering if, since this grease trap is like between the two areas that people might be eating outside, are there any olfactory things, smells and that coming from any vents on the grease trap? That's just something for you guys to think about.
If that ever needed servicing, I'm sure that would also be done on off hours. I mean, because no one wants to open a grease trap in front of anybody.
Okay, no further questions for me. Good luck.
Thank you.
My turn. Jill, I'm going to need some help here. This drawing we've got with all the signs,
Yes.
I'm seeing many signs, say like what would be the building with, the restaurant with the drive-through. I'm seeing a proposed sign in the front on Ogden. On the north side, I'm seeing a sign on the south side, and I'm seeing a sign on the east side. That's 3 signs for that one restaurant alone, proposed.
Correct.
Now, we have nothing, we're discussing nothing about a variance for signs.
Right, right. The variance would be requested later when the commission sees the
So that's
actual
all going
sign
to be
details.
reviewed once they get.
Right, right. Once we have the very specific sign details, we'd go over it then. I wouldn't feel comfortable giving such an open-ended sign variance to the commission at this point, just because it could change with the tenant mix, too.
Good, because it gets shot down.
And I think this would be a good opportunity for the commission to recommend what would be appropriate in this instance for
Yeah.
signs.
Could you help me, Jill, again with the electronic message board?
Yes.
Now, they're proposing a sign for 1, 2, 3, 4 tenants.
Correct.
And then what would be the electronic message center relate to?
It could be for any of the tenants, it could be for all of the tenants. We've seen them around
Does-
go ahead.
Does our code provide for this? Is that allowable? So that would have to, the whole thing would be, the whole entire monument would have to go by the square footage of the entire building.
Correct. So the monument style height and size meets code, but the total square footage for all of the signs is based on the building, so we'd have to detract some of the square footage used for this sign, for the wall signs. But the electronic message center sign size meets the requirements, and with the alphanumeric text, it meets our requirements as well.
Okay. So it looks like you have a little work to do on your signage. Not a problem. Let's go back to our grease trap.
Chairman, is the specific number of signs or the square footage, is it both?
Both.
Okay.
I'm seeing the building with, it's got 3 exposures, the restaurant on the east side, it's got 3 signs, plus the monument. The 2 retail establishments, the interior retail establishments, each one has a front and a north sign and a south sign. Plus then the restaurant on the west side is 3-sided signs.
Okay.
Those are also probably not large signs. There may be 3 of them, but they're not.
Understand, but-
No, I understand. We'll come back whenever we have a real tenant
Yeah.
mix and bring it back to you.
Okay, let's talk Ogden Avenue exit. I realize you've narrowed down your egress, your exit onto Ogden Avenue.
Yes.
But on the left-hand side, your curb is curved to the west. I would strongly suggest or recommend that that curve be adjusted to slant to the east. Because as sure as God made green apples, you're going to have customers that are going to use that curb to make a left turn on Ogden Avenue. One, they're going to have a potential accident. 2, with the eastbound traffic on Ogden, they're going to stack up your entire drive-through lane on you when they can't get out of your property.
So you're saying like Jewel, the one at Jewel over on the corner, they go right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but also curve the curb.
the other side, the west side.
So if someone is stupid enough to make a left turn, they got to drive over a curb. Let's go back to the grease trap on the front of your building. Now, the sanitary districts are going to have a place where they're going to have to monitor your sewage. But you're calling it a grease trap. Is that going to be sufficient to trap any large amount of grease where it would have to be cleaned out? Because the only way they clean a grease trap out is a big septic truck pulls up, pulls a 6-inch hose, unravels a 6-inch hose, throws it in the grease trap, pumps it out. There's no way in the world a guy's going to be able to park and obscure a lane of traffic on Ogden Avenue, clean out your grease trap. I would strongly recommend put it in your driveway, your parking lot.
Sure. It's gravity.
You can't have you can't have a septic truck blocking a lane of traffic on a state highway.
I agree.
That's not going to happen.
You see it's running downhill though. See how that line runs?
Well, they may have to figure out an elevation or something, or perhaps
Lift station.
recess the grease trap so it, dig a trench a little bit deeper. Let me see my list here, what I've got. We've talked about the grease trap, Ogden Avenue exit, signage, your snow storage. As the gentleman has said, since you have now increased the island for your drive-through, that corner back there would be inadvisable for you to store any snow back there, because otherwise no cars are going to be able to get into your drive-through lane. So you may have to very seriously consider snow removal instead of storage. My other question would be fence. When I drove through there today, there's quite an elevation difference between the driveway on the north end of Phillips' property and your parking lot. And now the overhead power lines, from what I can see on the site, on the plat of survey here, it looks like your property encompasses most of the land almost right up to Phillips' driveway. Where would you be planning on putting your fence?
Well, if you look at that property line, there is a retaining wall there to address the
You'd be
the
putting
grade
it on
issue.
top of the retaining
On
wall?
top of the retaining wall. They're going to replace that existing retaining wall with a new retaining wall.
Okay.
And we'll add the fence to the retaining wall.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you were to put the fence down on the parking lot level, it's going to be like it's non-existent.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Those pretty much handles all of my questions then. I think you've got a very nice plan, and very happy to see you wanting to come in and do it in this village. I'm very happy for that.
Thank you.
All right. Any further comments, any commissioners? All right, since we have a special use request, may we have a reading of the findings of fact for a special use, please?
But we didn't entertain any comments from the public, even though we didn't have any questions, even though we didn't have
We-
comments.
You did.
I asked for public comment.
I know, forgive me, I didn't have comments, I do have a few questions, and I will.
Oh, comments, questions, it's all the same. Okay, please, if you would, come up and give your name, signed paper.
Yes, sir. I'm Baxter Phillip with Phillips Flowers. I'll be a neighbor, and we're in favor in general of business, but as a contiguous property owner, just want to understand what the issues are. I've heard that there would be about, and parking is one of our biggest concerns, like most small businesses. I've heard that there'd be about 45 parking places, which sounds pretty adequate to me. I haven't heard how different that is from what's required under code. Therefore, is the variance 5 spaces or 50 spaces? Since I'm not a
10.
real estate developer, I don't understand what we're talking about.
10 spaces,
About
50,
10 off?
55 is required by code, they're providing 45.
And there was a gray area on your drawing next to the dumpster enclosure, I believe, and I'm just, don't see well. What is that?
That's a loading area. It'll be an open loading area.
Okay, more or less for a long truck to pull up next to or something? Some room for some parking places there, or some snow.
The loading area is for code.
Okay. And I'm just partly out of curiosity, and I'll be very brief. I know you're intending 3 to 4 tenants, but I saw a drawing that looked like it had 6 or 7 entry doors. Is it fairly flexible space long-term, or?
There's room for additional if they need it. Like, for instance, the width of the one tenant may be large enough, they may need 2 doors, 2 sets of doors.
Understood. You answered that question. It's pretty minor, but it looks to me like we might be losing 1 or 2 public parking spaces on Grant Street then, and maybe that's okay, but I don't know if there's any.
Those will not be allowed to be taken out. That was part of the engineering comments with
Okay.
regard.
And I think that's all my questions, and thank you for letting me be out of order.
No big deal. Thank you. Okay, may we have a reading of findings of fact for a special use, please?
19 West Ogden Avenue, request for a special use to allow a restaurant with a drive-through in the B2 Business District. Criteria number 1, the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the special use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. The proposed drive-through will not adversely impact the public health, safety, or welfare. The applicant is providing a sufficiently sized drive-through lane for cars to queue up. The surrounding area is commercial, and the drive-through lane will not impact adjoining properties. The drive-through lane will be consistent with other restaurant drive-through lanes in the immediate area and will not result in adverse noise, light, odor, or other adverse impacts. Criteria number 2. The special use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. Surrounding properties are zoned B2 and are fully developed with retail and restaurant uses. This small retail strip center with a restaurant and drive-through lane will not adversely impact surrounding properties or impair property values. A restaurant was formerly located at this location. Criteria number 3. The establishment of the special use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. Surrounding properties are fully developed. This proposed use will not impact the future development and improvement of surrounding properties. Criteria number 4. Adequate utilities, accessways, drainage, and/or other necessary facilities have been or are being provided. The property will be fully serviced by adequate utilities, accessways, underground stormwater detention, and other necessary facilities. Criteria number 5. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. The applicant has eliminated the existing entrance-exit to the property along Ogden Avenue and replaced it with a smaller exit-only curb cut onto Ogden Avenue. The applicant is providing 2 curb cuts to the property along Grant Street, which should provide safer and more efficient ingress and egress to the property compared with current conditions. Although a parking variance is being requested, the property will provide 45 off-street parking spaces in addition to a drive-through lane for a restaurant, which should sufficiently handle customers at this location. Criteria number 6. The special use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, except as such regulations may in each instance be modified by the village board pursuant to the recommendation of the Plan Commission. The applicant is seeking variances for the front yard setback and for parking, and the applicant will seek a waiver from the village board for the proposed parking stall dimensions. Sufficient hardship exists to justify these variances in this waiver, particularly given the lot size and configuration and given the built-out of surrounding properties. In all other respects, the proposed special use meets all regulations of the B2 district and will meet other codes and ordinances of the village. Criteria number 7, the proposed use meets the special conditions of Special Condition 2. The proposed use will not cause appreciable traffic congestion or hazard to pedestrian safety. A sufficient queuing lane is provided for the drive-through. Adequate drive aisles are provided for vehicular traffic on the property. Curb cuts have been designed to promote efficient ingress and egress.
If you agree with these findings, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement. Therefore, the findings of fact for a special use are hereby adopted and approved. Under Planning and Zoning, item 13037, item A, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees, a special use permit request to operate a restaurant with an associated drive-in in the B2 General Business District.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. A question on the motion? May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Yes. Okay, may we have a reading of findings of fact for item B, a zoning code variance request?
19 West Ogden Avenue, request for a variance to reduce the number of required off-street parking spaces. Criteria number 1, the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it is located. This variance is required due to the size and shape of the property and in order to construct a sufficiently sized building and a drive-through lane for a proposed restaurant. If the applicant were forced to reduce the size of the building and provide more parking, the applicant could not yield a reasonable return on its investment. Criteria number 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. It would be extremely difficult for the applicant to construct and operate a commercially viable retail center given the small lot size if the applicant was forced to comply with the parking requirements and other zoning requirements of the village. Criteria number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. The proposed use is consistent with the village's comprehensive plan and consistent with surrounding improvements. The proposed use will not alter the essential character of the area.
If you agree with this, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement. The findings of fact for a variance request are hereby adopted and approved. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Item B, a zoning code variance request to reduce the number of required off-street parking stalls for the purpose of operating a multi-tenant building with restaurants in the B2 General Business District.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Van Buren, seconded by Commissioner Anton. A question on the motion? May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Yes. All right, may we have a reading of findings of fact for a zoning code variance request?
19 West Ogden Avenue, request for a variance to reduce the required front yard setback. Criteria number 1, the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it is located. This variance is required due to the size and shape of the property and in order to construct a sufficiently sized building and a drive-through lane for a proposed restaurant. If the applicant were forced to comply with the front yard setback, the applicant could not yield a reasonable return on its investment. Criteria number 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. It would be extremely difficult for the applicant to construct and operate a commercially viable retail center given the small lot size if the applicant was forced to comply with the front yard setback requirement and other zoning requirements of the village. Granting this variance will enhance traffic circulation and parking for this property. Criteria number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. The proposed use is consistent with the village's comprehensive plan and consistent with surrounding improvements. The proposed use will not alter the essential character of the area. The setback variance will allow for parking in the rear of the building and away from Ogden Avenue.
If you agree with these findings, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement. The findings of fact for a zoning code variance request are hereby adopted and approved. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees, item C, a zoning code variance request to reduce the required front yard setback for the purpose of constructing a new multi-tenant building in the B2 General Business District.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on the motion? A roll call, please.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Chairman Richard?
Yes. Okay, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees, item D, site and landscaping plan approval for the purpose of constructing a new multi-tenant building in the B2 General Business District.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Van Buren, seconded by Commissioner Fleet. Question on the motion? I do have one question. I notice, John, this might be illegal, since we're going to propose, they're going to put outdoor seating in the front, close to Ogden Avenue. Does our code require any kind of fencing or to keep an errant vehicle from crossing a curb and nothing like that?
Not to my knowledge, Jill, you're probably not aware of anything, are you?
I don't,
Yeah, but they're
it might
raised up.
require a fence. Well, no, I don't think it does.
No, Standard Market doesn't.
Standard Market has it, but they're also raised up over the roadway about 5 feet.
Oh, they're right, that's right, they're raised up.
We even have businesses in the central business district that
Pompeii has
have
it.
temporary
Where the-
outdoor dining, and there's no
Yeah,
safety.
but that's not a high-speed throughway like
Pompeii has it
Avenue. Pompeii does?
right across from the bowling alley.
Oh, okay.
Anyhow, it's something we can look into when it comes time to permit issuance. Maybe you can make a note and see if there's any requirement, but
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any.
Okay, we've had a motion with a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Chairman Richard?
Yes. All right, gentlemen, you have our recommendation for approval. Unfortunately, it's only a recommendation. They don't listen to us all the time. But good luck to you. I'd like to see you come into town. Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda, Planning and Zoning, item 13038. Village of Westmont regarding a zoning code text amendment as follows. A, amend Appendix A, Article 4, General Provisions, and Article 6, Residential Districts of the Westmont zoning code regarding size limitations on attached garages in residential districts.
Good evening. As you'll recall, a variance for a detached garage of almost 3,000 square feet was requested back in the fall and voted down by the commission. It was noted at that time that the zoning code is silent with regard to attached garage sizes. Our Building and Zoning Committee discussed this in the fall as well and recommended that text amendment language be proposed at their following meeting, which would be in January. As part of the text amendment, I researched other towns around Westmont and found that most of their codes to be silent as well with regard to attached garage sizes, except for Woodridge, which limits attached garages to 750 square feet. Based on the discussion at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, staff recommends a text amendment and would open the discussion up to the commission about how that text should be crafted. We mentioned several options in the staff report, which could include limiting attached garages to a certain number of cars, such as 4 cars, limiting the size of an attached garage to a specific square footage, limiting the total width of garage doors, or you could limit the size of an attached garage to be no greater than the first floor living space of a home. So those are all options that we can discuss, and I'll open that up to the commission.
Thank you very much. Will anybody from the public speak on this issue, either for or against, or ask any questions, please?
Hi, my name is Gene Newman, Dreamhouse Architects.
Sign in, please, too, sir.
Yes, I will sign it. As you recall, I came before you in September on behalf of Mr. Benfield, who owns the property at 324 Warwick, and that's what Jill was referring to, and I'm sure you remember our meeting. I just wanted to give our opinion on where this is going. We knew before even applying for the variance that we could have come in with a plan with a large attached garage, and there was nothing in the zoning that would stop us from doing that. But Mr. Benfield really wanted to do the barn structure that we proposed and subsequently were denied. So we went back to the drawing board and we designed a building that meets all the current zoning. It has a very large garage, two large two-car garages attached, and a structure to house his RV and some other additional trailering and a boat and so forth. So everything we wanted to accomplish with the barn is now attached to the house in the plan that we've submitted. I don't know if you've seen that plan. I think the people that have seen it find it attractive. I was able to take each section of garage and change the roof lines, add dormers, turn the direction of the roof lines and so forth to break it up into a number of small looking masses rather than one large structure. But again, it is, in my estimation, it meets all zoning. We're under the required lot coverage, we're under the required lot building size, we're under the required height. We meet everything. So to change the zoning midstream after we've applied for it, to me, just doesn't seem like a reasonable thing to do. I understand attempting to make some clarification for future projects, but I don't understand how it can be changed midstream after we've applied for it. There were even comments made during our hearing that if we had applied for a building with all these attached, that we wouldn't even be in front of your committee. So, you know, some commissioners are aware that there is no maximum, you know, garage that is allowed in the current zoning. So we request that, you know, our plan be approved. And I'm sure, I know that's not what you're here for tonight, but I do think that there's no reason to change the zoning midstream while we've already applied for something. And there was a comment also made by your attorney that the building might be considered a storage building, not a single-family residence, and I question that too, that I don't know where in the definition of a single-family home the size of the garage comes into play. I don't believe there's anything in the zoning that would relate garage size to whether or not it's a single-family residence. So those are my comments.
Well, I guess I'll try to, before we get into the meat of this, first of all, as you pointed out, this commission isn't charged with, nor does it have the power to really decide what has priority or what should be considered first or what to do. I don't think they're aware that you even applied for a building permit. I'm not even aware. Have you formally applied?
We were told to submit the revised drawings with the attached garage to the community development for that approval before completing final drawings. And we have floor plans, we have elevations. You know, we're halfway to a set of plans, but I didn't want to complete them until we get the approval from the community
Understood.
development.
So I do recall this commission and myself being very forthright that had this plan come in at the time with an attached garage, there's little in our code to deny it other than to say that the primary use appears to be for storage purposes instead of a single-family house. The mere fact that there's a single-family house there, if it's eclipsed by a huge garage, maybe it's the house is accessory to the garage use. That being said, this commission said at the meeting, we need to amend our zoning code text to address this. And the village promptly went through the process of going to a building and zoning committee to have it look at this, then publish notice and get it before this commission. So I think that this commission identified a problem and is working to correct it. You know, if you had a permit in hand, obviously you'd have the right to build based on a permit that was issued. But I think you knew full well that this was an issue the village was investigating and looking to change.
Well, I believe had we submitted it prior to going for the variation, I believe that there would have been a way that it would have been stopped anyway. And I'm not sure what that course of action would have been, but I think the red flags would have been raised and the attempt would have been made to stop us from doing it anyway.
Isn't it a common sense issue, though? If the house is small and there's a garage, I'd love to have a garage, 9 cars, 10 cars. In fact, I'm putting pole barn out in the country, just so I can do that with my RV and my boat and my stuff. I think it looks kind of strange to have a small house and a gigantic bunch of garages. This is not going to fly. I mean, do you think it seems right? I mean, I don't think it seems right at all. I mean, I can't, you know, if they let you go and shoot somebody and it's okay to shoot them, I mean, that doesn't make it right, you know? I mean,
Either way, I don't think it's this commission's
Right.
role to even address this, because it sounds like we don't have a permit that's formally been applied for, and I don't want you to judge something. He may come in for a variance, so.
Sure,
But,
sure.
But I don't know that we should get into
Yeah.
the merits of his garage as much as say, you know, here's what the process was. I think the village is very forthright about the process, and that we were going to be looking into this, and has done so as expeditiously as possible.
Actually, I'm surprised that this got away from me a little bit. I should have shot it down as soon as you started to speak, because the only thing we're here talking about is to amend an article in our, with the text amendment in our building codes. It has nothing to do with your building permit. We have nothing to do with that building permit whatsoever. We are strictly here to discuss whether or not we want to make a recommendation to our building codes. As it pertains to you, that is none of the purview of this board as we sit here tonight.
I understand that the particular building permit or this particular plan is
We
not
have
part of what
nothing.
you're discussing.
We should
but-
not even be hearing about a building permit. It has nothing to do with this board this evening.
Right. I'm not making a case necessarily for my exact building permit. I'm just offering my opinion that I think that changing the zoning midstream after we've been working, Mr. Benfield bought the property last summer. We've been making every effort to work with the community development, and I just wanted you to be aware that we've bent over backwards. We've done, I think, a plan that could be acceptable if it's, and I didn't know if you had actually were able to see that, but apparently not, so.
I did not include the plan because the direction from the commission was that a text amendment was desired, and as the chairman noted, it wasn't, we're not writing a text amendment regarding that house. I mean, it's, the issue is the size of the garage.
Yeah, I would like this board to be able to get on with its business of discussing a text amendment, not as to whether or not how it would affect someone's building permit or what. That's none of the business of this board.
But if he has comments about the text
Oh.
amendment, certainly he can.
I would ask, though, that after we raise our questions about it and give our opinions, then I would ask for his opinion as to how we feel about it.
Okay.
No, please sit, because you'll have a chance to talk to us after. There's one more gentleman there. Do you wish to say anything for or against, or?
I'm Kevin Benfield's cousin.
Okay, well, you'll have a chance to question us once we go, so I'm going to start with Commissioner Fleet, if you would, please.
I think, first of all, in just the general form of where this idea is going is to give the front office downstairs a no or go criteria that they can measure with, whether it's based on doors or based on square footage. I lean more towards square footage. But now, we look at some of our lots in Westmont, they could be very big, as opposed to my city lot is 60 feet by 150. Maybe there's, in some places that aren't developed, but could develop into large houses, that it'd be nice if there's some way that could be incorporated into a future standard. Not anything more specific than that. I know I've got roughly a 900-foot garage that was built in 1950, and I cherish it for all the things I could put in it. Now I've got one door, one car door. but I know the value of a nice-sized garage, and it is nice to have them. So, that's my comments.
Commissioner Van Buren?
I think that, my personal feeling is that, state a number of car garage that would be allowable. And I think the maximum that we've seen in the village is, and there are several, are 3-car garages that are attached.
There may be a 4-car garage. As I mentioned in the staff report, I talked to one of the local developers, and he said that typically he'll do a 2 to 3-car attached garage, but he has seen up to 4. And they can be done in a variety of ways too. You know, you could have a 3-car with garage with a car length behind, so that you could park 2 cars, you know,
One of them's tandem.
tandem.
We have several of those in Norton development where we
Right.
had the 3. But I would prefer stating it as a number of cars as opposed to square footage or to relate it to the size of the house.
I would point out that something that was in the staff report, we do have property owners, I don't know if in this village as much, but I've seen in other communities where they collect cars and they have car lifts, and so they can stack cars. So if you do limit it to 3 cars,
We even have that in Westmont.
yeah, you probably do. You eliminate that possibility if you limit it to 3 cars, if that was your proposal. Or you're saying
3-car garage. Now, you can put 5 cars in a 3-yard garage if you want to pop your ceiling.
3
You're saying
cars.
openings then? 3
You say
openings?
3 openings.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
That's all.
Okay, Commissioner Anton?
I think within reason, it's gotta be within reason. First off, we tear down fleets. All right? No, but it's gotta be within reason. You can't have a small house with a long, chicken coop out there with 10 cars. I'd love garages. I'm the biggest garage guy in the world. My house is set up for 2 lifts right now, but I don't even have enough space there. I'm going to another spot. I like fences, love garages. I just think that's gotta be done. These other communities here, Clarendon Hills, Darien, Downers Grove, Elmhurst, Hinsdale, LaGrange, Lisle, Lombard, Naperville, Woodridge is the only one that's got any sense to have some sort of limit on it. I agree with Commissioner Fleet. You gotta have something on the books to help protect the locale, the way the neighborhood looks, because you don't need to have big standouts and some obvious, oversized garages where you could have someone renting. How do you know if he's got a car in there, someone's renting a spot, putting an RV in there, 2 RVs in there? I'm gonna do just that. Out down southwest, when I put a pole barn up, I'm gonna put up, have guys in there renting. So, I don't know, I think you gotta keep the community looking nice, you gotta keep the community continuous, you gotta make sure it looks good, and you gotta be fair, and you gotta be smart about it, and don't bend the rule just to bend it, or take advantage of a spot that's not written in, like these other communities. And we do have big lots. Commissioner Fleet's right. Some of these lots are 300 feet deep. You technically put up a monster garage tied onto a 1-story hut, I mean, it can't happen. You gotta have something on the books. And I guess we missed this in the comprehensive plan, but, it needs to be addressed. It's like anything that comes up. Something new comes up, we've got to make a smart decision on it, make it look good, and make sure it's best for everybody around, not just one person. It's for everybody in the community, the whole town. Thank you.
Commissioner Pill?
Well, at first, when I was reading this, I was thinking, well, maybe we should just leave well enough alone. Since most of the communities, all but one, have chosen to remain silent on this issue. But then I was thinking that, much like Commissioner Anton said, there has to be a sense of proportionality. So I think that I would favor some type of text amendment, but I would probably go bigger than smaller to allow the maximum flexibility. So I would look at 4, and I would certainly take it right up to 1,000 square feet. I don't see a problem with that. I could even go to 1,200. But that's probably, I think, from what I see in the village of Westmont, driving around and living here for almost 20 years, that probably stays in the proportional realm.
And just for a point of reference, detached garages are allowed to be 576 square feet in size and no more than 28 feet in length. So if you go to the 1,000 feet, that's almost double what's allowed for a detached garage currently.
It's pretty generous.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thomas?
I tend to agree with Commissioner Peel because of the fact that in this village, the lot sizes run the gamut. You know, you have very little ones to great big ones, and if you have to be able to have the larger size lots cannot be pigeonholed into what my lot would be, you know. There has to be some leeway, and I think, like Mr. Peel said, I'd rather go larger than smaller to give the larger lots, you know, a fair access to a suitable size garage for the lot. That's all I have.
I have a question. What do we say about having an attached garage and a detached garage on the same property?
You know, I was going to just raise that we
Right.
don't prohibit that.
Yes, and we do have, we have lots that have both.
And that's an additional benefit to someone who has a lot of vehicles. They could build a detached garage of
Within the
500
limits of the existing,
576 square feet, plus if it turns out to be 1,000, that's it's quite a lot of garage space for a residential area.
As long as they don't exceed lot coverage, obviously.
Right.
And you also can't have more than one additional accessory structure in addition to the detached garage. So you'd be allowed a shed of 144 square feet, the garage, and then whatever you can fit inside the house.
So you
And meet lot
could, so you could potentially, with a 4-car attached garage and a 2-car separate garage, you could, if you put lifts in there, you could put 12 cars.
Yes,
Technically.
That's pretty good.
technically speaking.
Like it.
For an attached garage, I could see going up to 1,000 square foot. That gives you a 40-foot by 25-foot garage, 2 garage doors, 16-footers, could get you in there. Now we're talking about a detached garage too. So let me understand this now, this is a little new to me. We can have an attached garage and a detached garage on the same lot, John?
Currently, yes.
If it's big enough, yeah.
but you gotta have a lot of property to do that.
Understand, I understand that. Which would be almost really, you're talking about a lot that runs deep. So your existing driveway could enter your attached garage, which would most probably be against the side of the house. And then your detached would be an extension of the driveway to go into the detached garage.
Usually we see them, it's an older detached garage that's accessed off an alley, and then the homeowners will add an attached garage and then use the detached garage pretty
That's
much as
true, I
a
hadn't
shed.
thought of that. Okay.
Because that decreases your lot coverage because you don't need such a long driveway going to the back because they can access off the driveway, or off the alley.
Well, our state lot's up in the southeast corner of Westmont. There you could possibly have that.
And a lot of the lots up in the northeast quarter, northwest quarter too, where they run deep.
But most of the 300s have been split, and so the 300s are usually 50 feet.
We do see that quite a bit.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one thing I like is LaGrange, where they say no more than 4 vehicles are allowed anywhere on one lot, which helps regulate garage size. One garage, detached or attached, is permitted per lot. Now, since we already, that to me, when you're talking about numbers of vehicles, most of the modern American families, you've got husband, wife, 2 children. That seems to be the magic number for most families. If you were to have 3 children, the children would be staggered in age, so when they get to car driving time, one kid's probably going to be in college by the time the other ones are driving age in high school, so you could have 4 cars adequately support a family of 4 in this town, which is pretty much what the town of Westmont is. I don't know if I really think it's too much advantageous to the town of Westmont to be able to store all these kinds of vehicles all over the place. That's my personal opinion.
But if you had a large lot and an attached garage and another, which is now allowed, and no one has taken undue advantage of the existing codes. We've had one instance where someone has approached us for more, but that would normally, just the lot size governs that. Not many people have the capability to have a second detached garage in addition to a 2-car garage on their house, or 3 cars. Just size alone a lot.
Yeah, lot saturation, you have to get a.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna run into problems.
Like with the McNaughton homes that have the 3-car attached garages, potentially 4, they would not have enough room for a detached garage on those newer lots.
You have to get a variance to get that, and we would never give it.
Right.
Well, help me out here, John. The way our agenda reads tonight is amend Appendix A, so we've got to come up with, we don't have anything written, we have to generate something this evening. We have nothing prepared for us.
Well, you've got some recommendations
We have a
from
recommendations.
staff. You've had a couple commission members saying they'd support a limitation based on total square footage. Wally, I think you've recommended limiting the number of, I guess, garage door bays or to 4. You could do a combination of that if you desire. But yeah, you'd have to come up with some language, make a motion, and then it can be fashioned into an ordinance. One thing go ahead.
Well, here's something that could be ambiguous. If you're talking about limiting garage doors, bays. I've got a buddy who lives out in 83rd Street where they have a private airport.
Brookridge.
No, it's not Brookridge. It's out at,
Oh, I know the one. Yeah.
out by Route 59 there. Anyway, you could have airplane hangar type doors. One door covers 60 feet.
Sweet.
So I mean, when you're applying a number just to door openings,
No, you can't do that.
Auto
you
door
can't,
bay.
so.
Auto door bay. A bay is the width of 1 car.
Is that a legal definition?
I don't know.
Well, you know.
So I would go with footage, 2 16-foot garage doors
That'd be a 4.
Yeah.
would be a maximum, but put that into code so nobody can come and find a way around it.
Keep in mind, too, we also have the driveway width maximum of 22 feet with a reasonable flare. So
32 would be about, 2 16-footers.
2 16-footers, and that means you'd have to have a pillar in the middle, and you'd have to have a return on both sides, so the width of the front of your garage is going to be 35 feet minimum, the front of it.
Well, for 1,000 square foot, Wally, you could have a 40-footer, so you'd
Yeah.
have plenty of
40, 20.
structure
Yeah,
on each
yeah,
side to
yeah.
support it.
Yeah.
Just another minor point, but only because I ran into this once where someone, it was actually in Woodridge, attempted to get around a regulation by cornering what was essentially a detached garage, but touched the house at the corner. and they tried to claim it was an attached garage, and not only violated the Woodridge Code, but it violated the subdivision's declaration of covenants, and it turned into litigation. And the judge said, just a mere cornering isn't enough to consider it attached. That's something I think we might want to address also.
Structurally dependent upon the house.
Yeah, at least 50% of the garage has to be attached to the main structure,
I would require that.
because people do get creative.
Are garage door openings standard at 8 and 16 feet for single and double?
Well, I actually pulled it up, and they vary from as, looks like 7-foot width being the smallest, which I don't think is standard,
Pretty small.
to as wide as,
Probably 10.
looks like 16
Yeah.
is probably the widest.
7 and 16 are what you'll normally, if you want to buy a garage door and you don't have to buy something custom-made for you, you're either going to buy a 7-footer or you're going to buy a 16-footer.
But it could be an 8-footer, it could be a 9-footer,
Yeah, yeah.
the
Yeah, but
single
those
car
are your-
widths do
Those are
vary.
standards.
So if the components were 1,000 foot and a maximum of 32 feet of garage door opening and 50%
Structurally dependent on the house.
dependent on the house,
Of the first floor square foot ratio. 50% of this, are you saying 50%?
50%, no.
I'm saying dependent on the house, it's gotta be tied to the house.
Attached to the house. At least 50% of the garage must be attached.
So it could be set back or it could be set ahead of the house, but 50% of the garage wall has to be in common with the house.
Okay, I understand.
That would be, to me, 3 components, and that would be simple enough.
I like that.
Would you feel comfortable then also putting a ratio of square footage to the first floor area of the house?
I think it's overkill.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think it might limit homeowners that have smaller homes, like 900 square foot ranch type houses. I think the other things will be self-limiting enough.
Well, I myself, I would think that 1,000 square foot of garage is one massive garage. You could accommodate a family with 4 cars, 2 children, everybody with their own cars, husband, wife, 2 children, which seems to be pretty much the norm of the American family nowadays. That I think we're accommodating pretty much of everybody who lives in Westmont
Sure.
and denying anybody the use, adequate use of their property.
So what do you got, John?
For a potential motion, exactly what Commissioner Pill mentioned, 1,000 square foot maximum for an attached garage, no more than 32 feet in total garage door widths, and at least 50% of the garage must be attached to the primary house, or to the house.
That's for the attached. Now, is there an allowance for unattached then?
That's already in the books.
You can have, if you have a big enough lot, you can still have
Right,
a
right.
detached.
And it would remain the same, 576 square feet maximum.
For the unattached.
Detached, yeah, 28 feet in length. 10 feet from the house.
So that would conceivably
take
give
care of the
somebody
larger
room for
lot.
6 cars if you wanted.
And as Commissioner Anton mentioned, that you could
And
stack
if you
them too.
if you stack them,
Lifts in there, you can put 12 cars in.
If you were
Stack 'em
designing
up.
the attached garage so,
Sure.
Correct.
in essence, give it a 2-story
I
height.
just raised my beam up to make sure the beam was over 14 feet in the house, so that you can raise it up and the windshield would hit underneath the main beam that goes through the garage. So I could put 4 cars in my garage. I have 2 doors.
Can I fit my motorhome in there?
No.
Oh.
Tear the face right off the house.
sounds good
All
to
right,
me.
John, can you help me out? Article 4, general provisions, and Article 6. What do they allude to, each one?
Article 4, it was interesting. Jill and I had this discussion, where best to place this. Article 4 actually mentions accessory structures,
Okay.
but it mentions garages and sheds and things like that, boats, trailers. So we thought it was best in that section with a cross-reference in Article 6, which is the residential, like the setback requirements and such, and that we'd footnote it in Article 6.
Right,
But it
we'd
would
footnote.
primarily be located in Article 4.
Okay.
Because Article 4 refers to garages at least 3 times, and so we thought, at least it's referenced there so that we wanted ease of finding it for people.
All right, according to what John has specified,
You're gonna ask them?
you gentlemen care to, any public comment of our discussion so far? Questions for us? Please. Just give your name and sign in if you would, please.
I'm Bill Obzera. I've lived in this village since I was like 4 years old. My dad built a house on 300 North Park Street, so I'm familiar with the village. I thought we put a pretty nice structural procedure together for a building and for a garage, and at this point, I don't understand how you can amend basically codes like after somebody has put something together and now you don't care for what we put on a piece of paper and you're going to try to amend the codes now after you try to change a code.
Do I understand that you've submitted plans that different from what this other gentleman, you're on Park, you said?
No, I grew up on Park Street. I've lived in this town since I was 4 years old, and my cousin bought a piece of property, and we, like I said, we put a set of plans together.
Well, you're still talking on the Wilmette
Yes, on
property?
the Warwick project.
Warwick.
Yes,
Okay.
we go through.
Again, sir, you're bringing up an issue that's not before us as to whether or not
But it is
the
before you.
timeliness of this gentleman, if he's going to resubmit a plan to the village or not. We are strictly here talking about,
Why would you, at this point, bring up, at this point, why would you guys bring up at this date to do?
because when this
amendments to your code?
gentleman and his customer first came before us, we thought it was quite, how should I say, abnormally large. And we thought the village is not protected against this, where similar lots could all have this happen to us, and the village
And all the neighbors came out.
and all the neighbors came out about it, and we,
But we didn't have any, we had a hearing and one neighbor showed up, right? Correct, the neighbor to the,
All the neighbors.
the people that I walked up to and talked along the street that did not care to show up that evening.
But also, procedurally, the village has a zoning code that goes back to like 1972, and it's constantly being updated and amended from time to time. And lots of times, the village can't foresee every single scenario that's going to change over time or come before it that would cause staff or this commission or the village board to say, maybe this needs updated. And that's exactly what happened here. The petitioner came in with a huge detached garage, sought a variance, and it caused this commission to say, wow, what happened if this happened to be attached? That would cause a problem. Let's amend our code to prevent something like that. So the village did everything it could immediately after that meeting to go through the steps to get to where we are tonight. At the same time, the applicant apparently has drawn up plans to attach it. Exactly what the concerns that this commission expressed and is hoping to prevent. So I don't know the timing of the applicant's plans or submissions or permits. I don't know where that stands, but I know where this stands, and it's very common for the village to amend its code from time to time, oftentimes in response to something it's seen.
Also, if you bring something that big, I think, and I've watched the council, I've lived here my whole life, I don't think that you get 10 people in here at the board level and they're complaining about it in their neighborhood, I don't think it's going to get passed. You're going to waste all your time and money on drawings and prints, and we're just trying to stop that from happening where it's just not feasible, for the people aren't going to accept it. And that's just kind of protecting the whole neighborhood. Make it reasonable. 4-car garage plus a detached garage, it's pretty good. I would like, I don't have enough room. I have, my lot's a little 60 by 135, stinks.
I think it was pretty much a consensus of the board, sir, that the board did not care to see the village become a used car lot, which is what I would consider if when you're going to store antique cars, muscle cars, no matter what kind of cars. I don't look for my village to be a place where I live. I've lived for 34 years here, where we become essentially a used car lot in a residential neighborhood, plain and simple. Well, I only speak for myself, of course.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John, would you care to formulate some verbiage for us then, or visit
Yeah.
everybody?
So I was going to suggest you may want to officially close the public hearing unless there are any other comments.
Will there be any further comments, gentlemen? Okay, thanks, John. We'll close the public comment portion of the meeting.
One question, when we talk, before I get to the motion, when we talk about not exceeding 32 feet in width for the total width of the garage doors, that would technically allow one big garage door.
Yeah, you're right.
32 feet in width. Do we want to say,
I would think two 16-foot
Total
garage
of
door
door
openings.
openings, total openings for garage doors not to exceed 32 feet.
Yeah, but that could still envision one
One
door
giant
opening,
door.
is what he's saying.
with no single door being in excess of 16 feet?
Should be 2 single 16-footers or 4, whatever,
Cumulative
8-footers or whatever.
Accumulation of square
Yeah.
doors. Well, put it in such a way that it wouldn't preclude them having two.
I guess, why do you want to, I'm not clear on why you want to put in code specific for 16.
It's more, personally, I don't care either way. I think it was raised as an aesthetics question. Is it aesthetically pleasing in a single-family neighborhood to have a door, if they even manufacture, or you custom make a door that's 32 feet? Because someone brought up the airplane hangar
Yeah,
type discussion.
I would love it.
Might not look very, very pleasing.
No, we should say the total square footage of door space or opening.
Okay. So with that being said, I guess the motion would allow attached garages not to exceed 1,000 feet square foot. No garage door opening can exceed 16 feet with total garage door widths combined not exceeding 32 feet.
Excellent.
And at least 50% of the garage must be attached to the house.
So moved?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on this excellently worded motion.
When we say half of the, 50% of the garage must be attached, we're talking just one wall.
Can't be that, yeah.
Yeah.
50% of that, of the length of that wall.
Right, and
Has
that
to be
might be
attached.
tweaked a little bit as I actually
Yeah,
write the
yeah.
ordinance,
Okay.
but I think,
Yeah, the concept is good, I just, because I think if you just lay it out like that, somebody will come in and they'll figure the gray areas.
Maybe, John, it might be like 25%, because sometimes it's not always a corner, it's just a section and it runs out by itself.
It could be at an angle, too.
Yeah, it could be in an angle, he's right. However you figure that.
I think the concept is going in the right direction, just get it down so that,
It's feasible.
yeah.
Perhaps would you consider at least 25% of
here's
said garage?
another way to skin the cat is think about what the, what the depth is of a garage, regardless of how it's turned, I guess, but you want to express it by a number of feet, at least X number of feet must be attached to the house.
What's a stall? 18, 20 feet? It's an outside parking stall, so at least
Yeah,
18 to 20 feet has to be shared on the wall.
I think you leave it at 50%, and the few people that ever usually have something different,
Variance.
that's why they either set it up as an administrative review or they come before the commission.
Yeah, I would think, you leave it at 50%.
So if you have a narrow but very long garage, that's 18 feet, at its narrowest, at least 9 feet would have to be attached to the house.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, at least it's attached then. Mm-hmm. That would probably be the extreme example.
And I think he's smart sometimes.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion.
If, back to this single garage door, if somebody wanted for whatever reason, wanted one door, it would be what, 32? Is that what we're saying? 32? In order to get that, as far as footprint goes and that, they'd have to have a larger lot, or could almost anybody have that size of a door? I'm just wondering how we can legislate how many doors you have. So it's a big door, so what?
As I
We're
said,
just talking
We just don't want to
aesthetics,
limit them
right?
to being able to only have one door 32 feet, because they'd have to have a custom-made door. It can be done.
But Craig, one thing that would determine that would be, you're talking about a header to cover 32 feet. Well, actually, you'd have to go at least
2 feet each side.
2 foot on each side, so you're talking at least 36 feet, possibly even 40 foot of a header, which has got to be about 4 foot
Most of a house.
in height.
Okay, so I'm saying, so that's
you're
up to
talking-
the person who's building it, not the village.
Yeah, but you're talking something that's completely unsatisfactory for a little
For you.
residential
Aesthetics,
district.
And us, for,
Better off putting 2 16-foot doors that look normal. Like your house.
I have, I think we're over legislating,
Okay, I like that.
that's all. I don't want the gigantic thing that we had before us before, but I think
We're just
we're gonna
talking,
tell them how many garage doors they can have, you know?
You could have 4. You could have,
could have 4 if they don't make more than 32 feet.
the only
Or
reason.
8-footers.
Yeah, the only reason I raised that is because I just questioned, it wasn't necessarily a recommendation, but questioned whether, taking into account aesthetics and whether a 32-foot garage, single garage door.
Wouldn't the aesthetics be up to the person who was building the?
that would be the neighborhood.
No, it would be the neighbor. What you put
got
up
people that
affects
would-
your neighborhood.
And the 10 people that are in here complaining, that's who.
They weren't in here complaining about the size, the number of garage doors.
Not yet. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I
We didn't
think,
get that far.
yeah, try it.
Okay, that's all I got.
No, I think it's good.
So why don't we, I think that
I will vote
they,
against it if it's.
without
if it
making
includes
this
the
a big deal,
32-foot door.
the way you last stated it is
think-
fine.
I think the way John stated it is excellent.
So we have a motion on John,
We have a motion and we have a second.
and so we call for a
Any
vote.
further discussion?
Can you reread the whole thing, John? Thanks, John.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
No,
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Yes.
I like it.
Any further comments, staff, board? I would just like to, before we sign off, I would like to thank the Village of Westmont Street Department for the excellent job they've done this past snowstorm and this bitter cold weather. It's, I think they all deserve a very good thank you from all of us. At least they do from me.
They've been working very long hours, so
I can
that'll be
only
appreciated.
imagine.
Yeah.
Overtime.
I did have a quick note, Chairman. With regard to text amendments, our stormwater task force has been meeting and coming up with ideas to help with all the flooding. And so there will likely be additional text amendments proposed in the coming year to address those recommendations, so.
Well, one little bit of help coming up, if Connie's gets built with underground detention, that's a large
It's a large piece that'll be
piece
helpful.
of land that's not
It's in
protected.
that belt too, that when we really had the flood this last
Yeah.
time, they were right in it.
Right behind the police station, fire department.
Yeah.
Hey, don't we have a Potbelly's Tavern? Is it gonna have to do Potbelly's?
No, Potbelly is a franchise.
Oh, that I know, but on, just down the street on Cass, there's the Potbelly, I think it's
Still called
Potbelly
that?
Tavern.
It is.
Yeah,
I've been told.
yeah.
Well put. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.